Hi everybody. Now we're going to work on the purchases budget. And the amount that we're going to purchase is related to the amount that we think we're going to sell. We're not going to buy something that's too little for what we plan to sell or buy a bunch more than we plan to sell. We only really want to buy about what we're going to sell. But we're actually going to buy just a little bit more, and that's an extra twist to the budgeting process. In addition to budgeting the purchase, we're also going to be reviewing how to link back to the original assumptions and make a live model. We're not going to be typing in any amounts. That's called hard coding. And so if you type in amounts rather than a formula, then when assumptions change, as they do regularly in a business, your budget is out of date. So we want the budget to keep current as assumptions change. Okay, so purchases. The first thing we're going to do is gather up the sales budget in units. So to review, I'm going to do either plus or equals to tell Excel, I'd like to make a formula, please. I'm going to click, I can click here and pick it up here because I know this has been linked to the original assumptions, or I can go back to the original assumptions directly. Both will work. Here I'll use the plus sign to show you that also works, plus, and I can click back here on assumptions. The dancing dot indicates, is this what you want? And if it's not, keep clicking until you find the things that you want. I want Q2, because I already did Q1. Okay, now I'll do equals, they both work. Now I want Q3, there's my dancing dots. Yes, I'm on the right cell, and so forth. We can also go down to this corner here and we can drag. That works as long as you're willing to float across, because it moves from D to E to F to G on my assumption page. So as you move across it on your budget, it thinks you want to move across on all the source cells as well. In this case, we do. So you could do it 1 quarter at a time if you're more comfortable there, or if you want to do the drag, you can certainly do it. Now, something interesting here on this schedule is they want the whole year. So I can go up to editing, I can add, it defaults to, are these the 4 you want to add up? And I do, so I clicked on enter. But I also am going to need the first quarter of year 4. I'm going to need the sales for that, and you'll see why in a minute, if you don't already know. So here it is, that data was given to you. So I'm going to have it be there. Okay, so now desired ending inventory. This is the cushion or the safety stock that the business owners want, and they have to tell you what their policy is. And what this does is give them a little cushion or a little extra in case they sell more. They've just signed a nationwide contract and they haven't done it before. So they're estimating sales, but they could be wrong. And if they're wrong and they have too few, they're going to be out of stock and customers may go buy their flip-flops elsewhere and they lost the sale. If they have a little bit extra, it's not serious. They didn't lose a sale and they didn't send a customer to the competitor. Okay, so having a little extra is not super serious. So what is their desired ending? Let's go look at the policy. Desired ending inventory, 50% of next quarter's sales in units. So it wants, here's next quarter's sales in units. So don't type the 50% in. Point to next quarter's unit times, now I'm going to click over here and I'm going to go to the 50%. And then hit enter. So now it's picking up this cell E3 and it's picking up D17 from the assumptions. Let's do that again. Let's do Q2. So I'm going to do either equals or plus next quarter sales in units times the assumption. 50% is the desired ending inventory. I can also drag this across. You can do it all 4 times, and that's fine. But if you want to drag this across, it will pick up here. But what happened? What happened is here, the assumption is only in one cell. The assumption is only here. Unlike the price that floated all the way across, it's just in the cell. So as I moved one cell over, it's just picking up trash. It's not going on the, not looking at the 50%. So if you want to do that, and you can, you have to lock this into D17 so it won't float. I can do that by hitting the F4 key on my keyboard. Or you can, if you have a Mac, you don't have that option. You just type a $sign in front of the D and a $sign in front of the 17 manually. So if you do that, if you anchor it on D17, when you float over, it continues to look at D17. It floats the G3 and H3, but it doesn't float the D17. You've locked it. And I don't want it to look at year 3. I want it to, the 4th quarter desired ending needs to be 50% of next quarter. Well, next quarter is not year 3. Next quarter, year 3 summed up. The next quarter is the 1st quarter of the next year. So now what we need is we need what we think we're going to sell plus this cushion that the owners want, which is 50% of next quarter's sales. So that's the total that's needed, and I can go to my lower right, hold down my left clicker on my mouse or keypad and pull that over. Or you can put this formula in 4 times, whatever you would prefer. All right, now I don't have to go buy all of that if I already have some on hand. I only have to buy enough to get up to 30,000 or 47.5. So I can remove from here, from the 30,000, any some that I already have, if any, and then I'll know how much to buy. So what is the beginning for the 1st quarter? The beginning for the 1st quarter is the inventory at the end of last year. At the end of year 2, they had 2,000 flip-flops that cost 14,000. I need how many? I need that 2,000 here because I don't have to buy all 30 because I already have 2. And I'm not going to hard code it. I'm going to do my formula. I'm going to go over here and click on the 2,000 and hit enter. And it's now populated in here. Now, the beginning for quarter 2 is not last December. The beginning of quarter 2 is the end of quarter 1. So end of quarter 1 is March 31st. So you left at 5 o'clock on March 31st, turned off all the lights, locked the door and went home, and came back at 8 o'clock in the morning the next day. It's still the same thing as last night. So the first day of the 2nd quarter is the same as the last day of the 1st quarter. So I'm going to hit plus, and I'm going to point. The ending for quarter 1 is what we're starting quarter 2 with. Same will be true here. The beginning of quarter 3 is the end of quarter 2. And the end of quarter 4, the beginning of quarter 4 was the end of quarter 3. And so what I need to buy is the total that I need minus what I already had on hand or what I'm expecting to have on hand given my budget assumptions. So the required purchasing, I can drag this over or do it 4 times if that's what you prefer. The cost per unit linked to your assumptions. Do not type it in. Even though you know what it is, don't type it in because it can change. Now here it's repeated, so I can copy across. If it wasn't repeated, then I would have had to anchor on that cell before I dragged it across, or just link it 4 times. So this is my required purchases in units. Now I'm going to do it in dollars. So for each one of those units, I multiply times 7. There's my formula. Well, what's wrong with my formula? I guess I accidentally typed a 7 in. Well, and there was nothing on D87, right? D87 would be way down here. So if you get a weird number, go check and see what happened. Or you can just delete and do it again and keep moving. All right. Now for the year, this is not just adding up all of these across. Let's see why not. The total sales is adding these all up. What is desired ending? The desired ending for year 3 is the end of the quarter 4. In other words, the end of year 3 will be December 31st. And the ending for December 31st is here. The end of the 3rd quarter is September. I want the end of year 3, that's December. So I won't add up the ending for each of the quarters to get the end of year 3. Total needs. Now I can sum those up. Notice how it went up here, and that's not what I want. I want these 4 added up. So I color up, I get the dancing dots, the dashes where I want them to be, then I hit enter. Now the beginning of year 3 is not the sum of the beginning of all the quarters. The beginning of year 3 was there. It was the end of last year, is the beginning of this year. And then the required purchases would be the total purchases minus what the beginning of the year. And you can do a check, you can add these up, and you can look down here below and make sure that this equals. Wait a minute here, my total needs to be the formula. So actually I shouldn't have copied the formula here. I need to add my cushion to the year. There we go. So this needs to be the total sales for the year minus the end of quarter 4 is the total needs for the year minus the beginning, gives you the 139. And if you add these 4 up here, they need to equal the 139. All right, and then of course we could copy the 7 over. Oh, but it didn't float all the way on my assumptions page. It was missing this, so I can link to it over here. And then the cost of purchases is a formula, which you can drag across or rebuild as you like. And also, you want to click on these 4 and see if the total down below equals this, because the full year purchases needs to equal the 4 quarters added up here. All right, so that's the purchases budget. Our next video will be doing the receipts budget.